Giants have been said to be sighted in some places on Earth. Some people believe they are real, while others believe they are just a figment of the imagination of those in love with Greek mythology. One thing is certain: giants were mentioned in the Bible, and an example is the Nephilim, according to Genesis 6:4. In those days giants lived on the earth, and also afterward, when divine beings and human daughters had sexual relations and gave birth to children. These were the ancient heroes, famous men. The events that followed the first appearance of giants in the scriptures beg the question: was the presence of these giants an abomination before God? Or were they necessary evils that corrupted his standards, and hence faced his wrath and judgment? Who are these giants, and how did they originate from the world of men in the first place? The Nephilim are enigmatic beings who are depicted as huge and powerful in the Hebrew Bible. The Hebrew name Nephilim literally means fallen ones, while some translate it to imply giants. Archaeologist George Ernest Wright believes the Nephilim, particularly giants, stemmed from the Hebrews' observations of Transjordan megalithic buildings and Cyclopean masonry-based Canaanite city walls. These walls were large, and some of them were 18 feet thick. However, the first mention of giants in the Bible was in the book of Genesis. Apparently, these giants, the Nephilim, were born when divine beings were attracted to natural women and could not control their lust, so they married them. Genesis 6:2. The divine beings saw how beautiful these human women were, so they married the ones they chose. Although their first mention in the scriptures was scanty, a lot was said in a few words. But who are these Nephilim? Humans, spirits, or demigods? There are different schools of thought about who these giants really are. Some believe they were fallen angels, and others believe they were just really big human beings. But let's dive deeper into these schools of thought. Proponents of this school of thought believe that God's sons, mentioned in Genesis 6:2, were fallen angels who bred with human females to create the Nephilim, a hybrid race of superhumans. They base their belief on the fact that the Bible only uses the phrase sons of God in Genesis 6 to describe angels, as used in the following scriptures: Job 1:6, Job 2:1, Job 38:7. Job 1:6. One day, the divine beings came to present themselves before the Lord, and the adversary also came among them. Job 38:7. While the morning stars sang in unison, and all the divine beings shouted. 1 Peter 3:18-20. Christ himself suffered on account of sins, once for all, the righteous one on behalf of the unrighteous. He did this in order to bring you into the presence of God. Christ was put to death as a human, but made alive by the Spirit. And it was by the Spirit that he went to preach to the spirits in prison. In the past, these spirits were disobedient, when God patiently waited during the time of Noah. Noah built an ark in which a few, that is, 8, lives were rescued through water. The fallen angels theory is one of the oldest historical concepts and was widely accepted in ancient Judaism and the early church. This viewpoint is also reflected in historical and non-biblical sources such as the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, the Septuagint, the Dead Sea Scrolls, and Josephus's writings. However, this school of thought is not without its challenges, with its biggest problem being in Matthew 22:30, where Jesus said, "At the resurrection people won't marry, nor will they be given in marriage. Instead, they will be like angels from God." The phrase used in marriage is a Hebraic reference to sexual intercourse, leading critics to insist that fallen angels could not have procreated with human women. However, the believers in the idea of the fallen angel claim that while heavenly angels do refrain from intercourse to preserve divine order, in Genesis, some defied God, as explained in Jude 1:6. Jude 1:6. I remind you too of the angels who didn't keep their position of authority, but deserted their own home. The Lord has kept them in eternal chains in the underworld until the judgment of the great day. Let's examine the second theory of the nature and origin of the Nephilim. Believers in this theory assert that the Nephilim originated from a line of men, the Seth to Noah descendants, who were given the title Sons of God because of their righteousness. When these so-called righteous sons married impure women from other tribes, especially Cain's descendants, the Nephilim were born as the fruits of their wicked relationship. Some supporters of this theory believe that these Nephilim were beyond redemption because of their defiled bloodline. Opponents of the Sethite idea argue that there is no significant scriptural support for this viewpoint. Genesis 4:26. Finally, opponents argue that if Seth's dynasty of human males had intercourse with sinful human women, they would have produced human offspring, rather than strong men of renown, or giants. One thing is certain: whatever the true origin of these giants was, it would seem they were an abomination to God. This is because these scriptures record the destruction of the earth after their first appearance on earth. The corruption of the Nephilim preceded the flood and destruction of all humanity. This proclamation may appear severe, but many scholars believe God ordered the complete extermination of the Canaanites, not out of ethnic prejudice, but to preserve the Nephilim DNA from tainting the Messiah's genealogy and spoiling God's plans of redemption. Genesis 6:4-7 and 12. In those days, giants lived on the earth, and also afterward, when divine beings and human daughters had sexual relations and gave birth to children. These were the ancient heroes, famous men. The Lord saw that humanity had become thoroughly evil on the earth, and that every idea their minds thought up was always completely evil. The Lord regretted making human beings on the earth, and he was heartbroken. So the Lord said, "I will wipe off of the land the human race that I have created, from human beings to livestock, to the crawling things, to the birds of the sky, because I regret I ever made them." God saw that the earth was corrupt, because all creatures behaved corruptly on the earth. Genesis 7:23. God wiped away every living thing that was on the fertile land, from human beings to livestock, to crawling things to birds in the sky. They were wiped off the earth. Only Noah and those with him in the ark were left. The Bible also recorded the existence of other giants apart from Nephilim. They too received judgment. Let's meet some of them. After the flood, as the children of Israel journeyed to the Promised Land, another dreaded tribe that had become legendary by the time the Israelites occupied the area was the Rephaim, who were reputed to be formidable giants. Deuteronomy 2:10-11. Now the Emim had lived there before. They were big and numerous and tall, just like the Anakim. Most people thought the Emim were Rephaim, like the Anakim were, but the Moabites called them Emim. Deuteronomy 3:11. By the way, Bashan's king Og was the last of the Rephaim. His bed was made of iron. Isn't it still in the Ammonite town of Rabbah? By standard measurements, it was 13.5 feet long and 6 feet wide. The Zamzumim were also giants, and they were mentioned in the same chapter as the Emim. Deuteronomy 2:20-21. Now people thought that land was Rephaim territory as well. The Rephaim had lived there previously, but the Ammonites called them Zamzumim. They were large, numerous, and tall, just like the Anakim. But the Lord completely destroyed the Zamzumim before the Ammonites, and they took possession of that area, settling in their place. There are important lessons to learn from the story of the giants, one of which is that God has a perfect standard, and anything that threatens his plans will come face to face with his justice. Tell me, what's your perspective about giants? And which school of thought about their origin do you believe is correct? While you're still here, please like and subscribe to the channel so others can find this video, and you'll be notified when the next video is posted. Thank you for watching.